I am vengeance. Hello everybody. Welcome to this movie review. We are reviewing The Batman, and if you have not seen this movie, this there will be spoilers. So, go watch the movie. Actually, don't watch the movie because the movie's bad. But go watch the movie and then come back and then watch the review. So, just to get started, we haven't seen a Batman movie in 10 years. The last Batman movie that came out was Dark Knight Rises, Christian Bale's last movie of his Batman trilogy. And so this is a completely new Batman to the screen, a completely new actor and Robert Pattinson, a completely new story. This movie received a lot of hype. A lot of people were excited. Some people were skeptical, like me. Because DC's DC and Robert Pattinson is Batman. And just some of the other cast decisions, but overall it did okay. Just to kind of get in the movie, this follows a kind of younger Batman, who's only been Batman for 2 years, and he's really not happy with the city. He hates Gotham, and there's this villain who calls himself the Riddler, who's been killing these corrupt leaders, and Batman is on the search to try and find the Riddler. The Riddler is played by Paul Dano, who gives an amazing performance as the Riddler. Robert Pattinson's as Batman, and so that's basically the plot of the story. Kind of to get into why because I don't really like this movie that much. I was very let down, and kind of to get into it. Something that this movie did do good though was I really love the way they portrayed Gotham City. Because in the other movies it was like, Gotham was bad, but it still looked like a pretty nice city, not gonna lie. I would honestly, I'd want to live there. Especially in Christian Bale's Batman. Dude, I want to live in Gotham. But in this movie, they really drove home that message that Gotham is this corrupt city, is really just is run by gangs and violence, and I mean most of the movies shot at night, and a lot of and the movie's really dark, and so I applaud the movie for that. I love the setting, and I love how they successfully achieved bringing the idea that home that Gotham is a very terrible city. But I kind of have problems with just Batman's character. I think Robert Pattinson's acting is great. I think the problem with a lot of his movies is that he plays these characters that are not good. For example, Twilight, he plays Edward, and Edward's character is just so stupid in those movies. He does it great, he pulls off playing a stupid character, but it's not what I want to see. And this Batman, I don't really care too much for this Batman. I will applaud the movie for trying to come up with a different idea for Batman, something that we've never seen out of all the other Batmans. I love how they tried to make this Batman more of a detective Batman, solving these mysteries, solving these crimes. And I applaud the movie for that. And I think that Robert Pattinson's probably is like the best Batman because he acts a lot like Batman, and him as Batman was actually pretty solid. I don't have any concerns with that. My concern is that he's Batman for the whole movie. I think we need to see more Bruce Wayne, and we don't really see any Bruce Wayne, which I get. The direction they're going with this movie is to show more of Batman. I mean, it's literally called the Batman, but there's still a big part of Batman's character is Bruce Wayne, and we didn't really see Bruce Wayne at all. We probably saw like 6% of Bruce Wayne, and the rest 94% was Batman. And another thing I have a problem with Batman is that he just has no emotion throughout the movie. And I know that Batman doesn't really talk a lot, especially in this movie, but I kind of need to know what he's feeling. I mean, even in Christian Bale's Batman series, where he didn't talk a lot either, I could still feel emotion from him. Like you have that scene in The Dark Knight with Joker, where he's obviously really frustrated with Joker, but we don't really get anything like that from Pattinson's Batman, and I think that's a problem because what's the issue of the movie? All we really get from the beginning monologue from Batman is that he's been Batman for 2 years, he's new to this, and he's vengeance. That's all we really learn is he's vengeance. He hates the city, and he's vengeance, and they don't really go more into detail. And I think that's really stupid because that doesn't tell us anything. I think it's just an easy way to try to say something really, that sounds really cool and sounds really brilliant. But really, there's no. I don't understand what that means. I'm vengeance, like, so that's my problem with with Batman's character. And even in the end, it doesn't really feel like anything's changed. He doesn't really have a character arc. He's vengeance, and then he's vengeance, and then he's a hero. Like nothing really changes. He take obviously what happens in the movie is that the Riddler gets the best of him, and the whole city gets flooded. And so we go from that scene of him, getting helping people from the flood to a monologue of him basically saying, "Now I know I must be a hero for the city," and it's like, well, no, duh. Like you haven't figured that out yet. Like that's what I don't understand. Because I don't know what he is before this. He says he's vengeance. I don't. Does that mean you're a hero? Because what would have been cool is if he was like if he was maybe like kind of a bad guy or was not really if they made it very clear that he wasn't a hero and then by the end he becomes a hero, which I think is what they tried to do. But I don't really know what he is in the beginning. So when he says he's a hero in the end, I'm like, isn't that kind of what you were throughout the whole movie? Like it's just they're just not clear with what they say, and it's really annoying because it's a 3-hour movie. They have time to explain stuff, and they don't. And so that's my issue. That's one issue with the movie that I have. One thing I like what they did with Batman is I like how they didn't really talk about his backstory that much. Because how many Batmans have we seen where we see the scene where he's a kid and his parents get killed, as we all know. And they kind of have a twist in this Batman where we don't learn until near the end that his parents were actually corrupt leaders. His dad was a corrupt leader, and I think that's a really cool change on Batman. And that was one of the awesome parts in the movie is where he comes, Batman comes to the realization that his dad is not this awesome guy who Alfred, told him that he was, and then he has to come to this realization that his dad was actually a terrible person, and hence the Riddler saying the sins of my father, and it's actually a really brilliant part in the movie, and I really like how they dealt with his backstory. So I do applaud the movie for that, and I do applaud Batman's character for that. I mean, it doesn't really, matter in the end because it doesn't really feel like anything changes. Um, so it didn't really play into Batman's character arc, other than this small realization that he's been lied to. So it doesn't really matter in the end. So even then, it's not really that impressive. I did like the Riddler's character in this movie. I thought Paul Dano crushed it. I really loved that we didn't see another Joker, even though at the end of the movie it sounds like we might see Joker in the next movie. So not too happy about that. But I really liked him. He's very Riddler like. He keeps Batman guessing, and I really love how they dealt with this detective Batman. I really like that. I just wish I would have seen more from Batman's character, but I love when he's trying to figure out all this stuff, and so I love that, and all these clues that Riddler kind of leaves behind to keep Batman, trying on the right track to find out what it is. And I really love the scene where Riddler and Batman are talking in Arkham, um, and when Riddler, we kind of learn like his backstory and his perspective is that, I was an orphan, but no one cared for me, but because you're this rich guy and because your father died, everyone feels bad for you, even though you have billions of dollars. And basically saying that's not the same thing as what I had to deal with. I was an orphan and no one cared about me. And so I really love that scene. It's a really amazing scene. And I love Riddler's character. As for Catwoman's character, I'm kind of mixed. I do like her character to a degree, but I feel like the movie could have done without her, honestly. I don't really think, I think if you're gonna add a character like that, I think she should play later into the trilogy, and she doesn't. I mean, we haven't seen the newer movies yet, but from what the movie gave us now, it sounds like she's never gonna come back, and so, I kind of have an issue with that because, like, what's the point? I don't. She never really gives me a reason to care about her, what she's going through. I don't really care. I care more about the Riddler. And so that's kind of a problem from the movie, not giving me a reason to care for her. Um, I care more about Batman and his and trying to find the Riddler because that's the main part of the movie. They add that thing as like a subplot, and even when she figures out her friend's die, she doesn't really care. And so it's really weird, and I don't understand it. So I don't really care too much for her character. I like Penguin. I love how he's not a big part of the story too. He plays and Colin Farrell, man. I did not know that was him after, I looked after the movie and I was like, that was Colin Farrell? That's crazy. But yeah, I like Penguin. But my biggest issue with the movie is this movie just was way too long. It was way too slow at times. And I don't have a problem with long movies and slow movies, but you've got to be telling me stuff about the characters and specifically the main character. and they don't really tell me, much. And so that's my issue with the movie is I don't know a lot, and it's really boring and slow. And at the ending doesn't really they really drag on the ending too. I hate how they dragged on the ending. Like I kind of wish that the movie would have ended in that scene where Batman and Riddler were talking in Arkham, or maybe added like one scene after that. But instead, it goes into this whole thing because Riddler kind of already won to this point. He had already killed a bunch of corrupt leaders, and Batman could never figure him out. And then he gave himself up, and they didn't really hint at him possibly flooding the whole city until the very end. It kind of felt just like this random thing. It's like I kill all these corrupt leaders, and now I'm gonna flood the city, and it's like why? That's not the reason why you are so, distraught. The reason why is because of these corrupt leaders. No reason to take it on the whole city. And so that's my problem. And then it leads to that whole long scene, him saving all the people, and now he's all of a sudden realizes he has to become a hero, even though like I don't really care because I don't really know what he was before. So that's my problem with this movie. It's too unclear at times, and it's too slow, too boring. Even the musical score is like I feel like it was the same music throughout. It's like, can you change that up too? Also, as for the directing, I did like the directing somewhat because it really did bring home that feeling of Gotham being this horrible city. So I did like that, but all in all, I don't really like this movie. And so I'm gonna give it a 6.3 out of 10. And so tell me what your guys' thoughts are on this movie. If you're like the general public view, you probably love this movie, and good for you. But I personally could not find anything enjoyable about it, and so thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you later.